So this is bringing me back. Let's see if this is going to work. Okay, maybe. I was just going to say, this is a great design. I spoke at a AI conference in Montreal many years ago, and I had, had all the deck. I had my schoolboy French, like, all right, I'm going to open this talk in French. And then we're going to be done because it's going to get me so far. And I spent the first 5 minutes because the laser pointer and the advance button was too close, like blinding people with the laser pointer. So we'll see if this works. So thank you all. I'm Trooper Sanders. I have the honor of leading an extraordinary organization called Benefits Data Trust with an extraordinary group of colleagues. And we get up every day trying to work with public servants and others to transform America's social safety net, to ensure that it works as best as it can, that it's dignified, that it's efficient, and that all of the hard work that's gone in through our democracy to create the social safety net, and we can debate whether it's too big, whether it's too small, et cetera, but it's gone through the democratic process, but that it actually works for people. And data is in our middle name. Back in the day when as was just said, when it was before big data was even interesting, when it was just lowercase data. We are 19 years old and began a lot of our work understanding that data had an important role to play in finding people who were going without benefits that they were eligible for and serving them better. And essentially, okay, let's see if this works. Okay, we'll see. So essentially, all across the country, there are millions of people who need help and who go without. Today, that amounts to about $80 billion worth of support that people are not receiving and that are left on the table each year. Now, if you think about the issues that you may care about, not everyone is a benefits nerd like we are, but you may care about maternal health, racial equity, housing stability, et cetera, workforce. And to think that there's $80 billion worth of resources across the country that can be put to work to advance those issues. So essentially, we are on a 10-year mission to eliminate this gap and to make sure that the $1 trillion plus American social safety net works for people, and that essentially poor people and struggling people can get access to help with the efficiency and dignity that rich people and the better off get all the time. So in our early days, on our journey, we really began with the simple notion that getting government agencies to share data with each other to find out who's being served by one benefit but not the other. And so, for example, the Medicaid program that provides health insurance to people. There are millions of people who are receiving that health insurance but are not receiving SNAP, or what used to be called food stamps, to buy a better bag of groceries. And so in our very beginning, we said, wait a minute, what if we could get government agencies in states where these programs are administered to share the data that they have with each other, to find out who's receiving Medicaid but not receiving SNAP. And then let's match the lists. And then, because we can help people get screened for benefits and apply, give us those names with all the appropriate safeguards in place. We reach out to them and get them signed up. Now that seems simple and straightforward, but putting a data sharing agreement between government agencies sharing with each other is extraordinary. We've done more than 40. It's almost a data sharing therapy practice. I have a wonderful lawyer on my team who knows, okay, we're at week 10, so this is when panic is going to set in, and we'll get them through. But that really kicked off us really looking at what is the powerful but responsible role of data in this work. And really over the past 4 or 5 years, we've been on this journey that's really brought us to today, where we are both applying AI to help advance our work. Right now, if some of you may have folks who are dealing with the federal financial aid system for college, That's a bit of a challenge right now, and we have a chatbot that uses AI to help people figure out how do you fill the form out. We are working with a great group of partners, including supported by some great organizations here. Please excuse me if I don't name check you, because of course I'm going to forget one person, a wonderful Philanthropy. But we are really building those tools. But on the other side of that is really understanding that there's a lot of harm, as has been discussed, that AI can bring to public benefits, to what's called rights-affecting areas. And so we are also really drilling into that to make sure to do everything we can to help ensure that AI is used responsibly, if it's used at all, in advancing the social safety net. So I like to say that if anyone tells you they're an expert in AI, they're lying. This is too big, it's too deep, it's moving too fast. We are all students of AI. And so for the Philanthropy leaders in the room, I think in many ways, some of this has happened before. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. And I always think about airlines and flights. And think about this work in different ways. One is the technology, the innovation. So all the things that we talk about in gatherings like this, around the technical advances, bias, and other pieces. It's a bit like the airplane. And AI is revolutionary. Imagine how revolutionary it was the first time we escaped the bounds of Earth. And then they're like, wait, I can actually get somewhere and deliver things? That was revolutionary. And think about all the rules and regulations and processes that go into regulating the technology of flight. And by and large, flight is pretty safe. Every now and then a door will fall off or something like that, and we kind of have to tighten things up. But that's the conversation around the technology. But that's not enough. You also have to think about the organizations, the ecosystems that the technology is introduced in. So all of us know who fly. What's the safety briefing that we get every time? If you notice the pilot doing the check around the airplane before every flight, the flight attendants who make sure that the knobs and this and that and everything happens, because there are a lot of rules, there are a lot of protocols, there are a lot of norms that we have to make sure that organizations are ready to use powerful technology. And I believe one gap in this space that needs more work is how do we ensure not only that the AI technologies are safe, but that organizations are ready and able to use it. Because ultimately it's going to affect the business processes, it's going to pressure your norms, it's going to pressure your ethics, your financial incentives, be it for-profit or nonprofit. And for a lot of your grantees who may not be even thinking about AI, if you're funding human service organizations or others, the minute AI comes into that environment, it's going to affect it. And so how do we ensure that there's innovation on that level? And also, how do we give space for organizations and your grantees to figure this out? And one thing that may happen is that all those goals and wonderful things you build into your grants, and you're saying, hey, great, yeah, use some AI. Guess what? They need to slow down. They might miss target of number of people served, because they're going to have to figure these things out, and you want to create incentives to say, wait a minute, get this right. Don't just use it to accelerate before you can handle it. And I do think, we also have to think about what is the power in the broader society, for good and for ill. Flight, travel, transportation, it's done an enormous amount of good across the economy, across society. But of course, there's a lot of harm that can come in, including when the growth of the airline industry was introduced, at least in the United States, when we had Jim Crow. Friendly skies weren't too friendly for some folks. Today, we're introducing AI into systems and domains where we know they're deeply entrenched inequities. And so to get the most out of it, we're going to have to address those things, because even the best technology into a rotten and poisoned system is going to create harm. And then finally, I'm also on this National Artificial Intelligence Advisory Committee, and we had a public meeting recently. And Google's Jeff Dean was there, and there were other folks talking about AI and science, which is so exciting. To think that we can use AI to find cures for diseases, new treatments, advance the frontiers of science in ways that just human brains could never do. And I asked the question that alongside AI, the revolution of AI in natural science and physical science, where's the AI revolution in social science? Because a number of the issues that we're dealing with in this room, be it criminal justice, child welfare, workforce, et cetera, it touches on the social science domains of public health, social work, behavior, et cetera. And how do we figure out, for example, in my domain, where we not only want people to get access to benefits, we want to figure out what is the right combination of public benefits, community support, other factors that can actually help somebody escape poverty, that can actually improve wellness overall. We think there's a role for AI to play in that, but building the discipline around the social sciences and blending it is going to be really important. Am I an optimist? Am I a pessimist? Maybe it depends on the hour, depends on the minute. I think we all have to take a very blended and balanced approach to AI. And frankly, the more important question is we need to reconsider the goals we have overall. Because one of the things that AI brings is that it's so powerful, we're going to have to re-examine our fundamental assumptions and goals. So one of the most powerful things, and Alondra Nelson, Dr. Alondra Nelson, who folks may know is a guru in this space, she has said, don't just focus so much on the harm that you forget this is an opportunity to renew and reinvent. So when we think about things around equity or opportunity, maybe we consider the pre-AI as the rough draft. And let's do an updated one and figure out AI's role. Thank you.
Thank you, Trooper. Okay, we have our fun mics again, so welcome any questions from the audience. Adam, I think we have one right in the front here. Oh, right. Trooper, you just gave all the solutions. You told us what to do.
There we go.
Okay, I'll do my best, Kelly.
There we go.
All right.
All right.
Soccer is my game, so I really thought I was going to drop this. But Trooper, how should we start the revolution of AI in social sciences?
Yeah. Fascinating question. So I think there are a couple of things. I think one is taking what we already are grappling with, of say AI and the role in equity, AI and the role of public health, other domains. And then, sometimes I joke but not joke. Frankly, the first people I want to call when I'm dealing with an AI question are the sociologists and anthropologists and historians. And I think literally bringing those domains into the room. And then I think there's a real question around their data is different. Now, generative AI, I think, has changed that. You can sort of throw a whole bunch of stuff in and hope what comes out makes somewhat sense sometimes. But I think it's really grappling with what is the role of qualitative data in all of what we talk about. I think also one area is changing the dynamics in the room. And as someone who very much came from the qualitative side of campus, I went to University of Michigan, and we used to feel sorry for the engineers and computer scientists who went up to North Campus when there was nothing up there. Jokes were on us, by the way, but never mind. But it was sort of interesting. I remember going to one of the massive AI conferences that was hosted in New Orleans. It was like literally my first week kind of getting my head around this. For like the first 3 days, I'm like, I don't even know what language this is. And then some patterns emerged. And then I sort of picked up, wait a minute, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. Now you're talking about what I do, And so I think bridging that, and so I think in some cases, it's how do we bring the world, the quantitative world, blending the worlds of code and prose, and making sure we should all be uncomfortable at some point, because this is so interdisciplinary, I think that's the start. Yes.
Danielle LeBlanc, Cerna Foundation. I wanted to go back to two of the points you mentioned about onshoring businesses and for me also grantees have the ability to safely employ AI, and then giving them space for that. And I was wondering if you either are engaged or know people engaged in these conversations that we could plug into, or if you have recommendations for moving forward, et cetera.
Yeah, I think there are a couple. I mean, certainly a number of folks are in this room. Oh, I was going to try to catch that, but I'm like, I don't need the microphone. I'll say there are a couple of things from our point of view. Excuse me. One is I've been heartened in the example of Missouri and what they've done, of the public servants who we've talked to, particularly in human service organizations, and this is on both sides of the political aisle. I think have been helpfully questioning. And they know they have more questions, and so I think would welcome those conversations of like sitting with the secretaries of health and human services and others. Frankly, I think the real conversation needs to be had with the organizations who haven't even considered AI. I think while there's been progress in a lot of the human advocacy and civil rights organizations, I know that kind of under the hood for many of them, it's just not on the radar, and they don't feel they have space or time to even do it. But here's the thing. I would say in an AI conversation, in some ways it doesn't actually, what we have to be careful of is creating a kind of an intellectual bouncer at the door that says if you don't have a certain level of AI literacy, you shouldn't come into the conversation. So in some ways I would even say, like, even if you don't think you know about AI, what you do know is what you do. You know the people you serve, you know the community you serve, you're experts in that. Bring that in. We'll find somebody who can give you enough on the AI. So I would frankly start at where you feel you're most powerful and most interesting. Because, look at this room. We can find somebody who can do the AI bit to just add a bit of that seasoning.
Trooper, quick question. David Quinn from Thomson, by the way. How bipartisan has your support been? Sorry.
Yeah. No. It's actually a really, really good question. So Benefits Data Trust, we've been around for 19 years. We've worked in deeply blue, deeply red, and purple. And here's what's interesting in our work, that even if sometimes the language we may use or the journey, sometimes we talk more about equity, other times we talk more about efficiency. That under the hood, in terms of how can we make these systems more efficient and more effective, while I'm not saying it is completely bipartisan, and it would be naive to say that everybody feels the same way across all the states and territories, I can point to, I call them, in some of my work, I call them aircraft carriers and submarines, where there's some states where we work, where they're taking it just as seriously, and these are folks appointed by very conservative folks. We're having the same substantive conversations around better service, around ensuring, like, well, wait a minute, we want to make sure, we don't want to introduce something in here. But what they say is, like, don't ever put us in the press. And I asked one state where we don't work, but where we're interested in working, and we're having all these great conversations, and I said, wait a minute, your governor, I'm not talking about Florida, just to be clear, your governor is public with a certain point of view. How are you able to do this? And the official said, oh, the governor doesn't care as long as I don't make press. So the space we work in and making real progress around making the social safety net work, I say it's an area where we use our inside voices and where we kind of get into the depths and the weeds.